The topic of battery life is one of the important considerations we may analyze while comparing different portable game console mods. Many of the modifications that improve performance of our retro handhelds, such as the many backlight kits I have installed on this channel, have a direct impact on battery life. In today's episode, we'll be looking at the impact of the FunnyPlaying IPS kits on the Gameboy Advance and Gameboy Advance SP. And the results are certainly not what I expected. So sit back, relax, and let's see how power hungry these backlight kits really are. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Tito and welcome to another episode of Retro Renew. In today's episode, we're going to do something a little different and perform a small experiment to see what impact these FunnyPlaying IPS kits have on battery life for both the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Advance SP. One of the comments I get a lot on this channel when I do backlight mod videos are questions concerning the impact to battery life. So if you're one of the people who've been asking those questions, this video is just for you. If battery life is something you're interested in for some of the other consoles that I've modified, let me know which ones you're interested in the comments below. Also, if you'd like to see more of these types of videos, hit that like button. Let's see if we can get 500 for this video. Alright, so I've actually already conducted these tests and seen the results, and I think you guys are going to find it pretty interesting, so be sure to stay all the way to the end of the video so you don't miss any of the test results. Now I have to preface these tests with some ground rules and assumptions. There are a multitude of variables that can affect battery life that I cannot account for in this video. So what do I mean by that? Well, as an example, battery life can be impacted by ambient temperature, battery chemistry, quality of the materials, how many charge and discharge cycles the battery underwent, the brand of the battery, its age, and the list goes on and on. It's very hard to account for all of these, so instead of doing that, I will simply state the parameters that surround my particular tests. So for the original Game Boy Advance, I'll be using two fresh Duracell Optimum AA batteries that I recently bought from the store. This Game Boy Advance has a FunnyPlaying version 2 IPS kit installed, and I enabled the dimming functionality. If you're interested, you can see the installation video by clicking on the card at the top of your screen or in the link in the description below. I'll be conducting two tests on this original Game Boy Advance. One will show the battery life at the default brightness setting, while the second will show the battery life at the highest brightness setting. The volume will be off because I live in a small apartment and I do want to maintain my sanity. Lastly, ambient temperature will be set at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. However, since I'm not really in a lab setting, that may fluctuate somewhat. Now for the Game Boy Advance SP, I'll be using a fully charged lithium-ion battery. Now this is where things get a little tricky, so keep in mind this won't be the perfect environment. The battery that I have for this SP is an aftermarket one, and really I don't know how good the quality is. Even if I did have an OEM Nintendo battery, its age would certainly play a factor since those batteries would be many years old by now. Of course, depending on the age of this particular battery, as well as a slew of other metrics that are unknown to me, this may not be a fully optimal battery. But it is the only one that I have, and for the sake of this video, let's just see how long it lasts. The battery that I have in my SP is branded ROA Japan and is rated at 850 mAh. Unfortunately, I do not know when this battery was manufactured and how many charge cycles it has gone through. This SP has been modified with a FunnyPlaying IPS kit. If you do want to see that installation video, you can click at the card at the top of your screen or again in the link in the description below. Like the original Game Boy Advance, I'll be conducting two tests on this SP. One will show the battery life at the default brightness setting, while the second will show the battery life at the highest brightness setting. Again, the volume will be turned off, and lastly, ambient temperature will be set to 75 degrees. Alright, for all of these tests, I'll be playing the demo sequence of an official copy of Metroid Zero Mission, one of my favorite games. This will be used as my control between the two consoles. Keep in mind, typically the demo screen of games typically don't take up as much power as actual gameplay. Now since I do not have unmodified variants of these consoles, I'll be comparing my results to the published battery life figures for unmodified factory spec consoles. Nintendo has published expected battery life for these consoles on their websites, and I'll be using those as my point of comparison. Okay, so now that we have laid down the ground rules, let's go ahead and get started first with the original Game Boy Advance at its default brightness setting. Wow, so we were able to get about 11 hours of battery life using these Duracell Optimum alkaline batteries at the default brightness setting. I think that's pretty good, especially when compared to Nintendo's stated battery life of the system at 15 hours. I typically use Panasonic on-a-loop rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries, but again, since my batteries aren't brand new, I thought the best way to conduct the test would be using brand new disposable batteries. Great, so now that we know how long this lasts at the default brightness setting, let's see how long it lasts at the full brightness setting. So that is significantly shorter than the default brightness. While 4 hours and 26 minutes I think is a decent amount of time, it's less than half of what we got in the prior test. Now I would really never use the brightest setting unless I suppose I was outside, but under normal indoor use, the default setting is plenty bright. Okay, so that's how the AGB did at both the default and the brightest setting. Now let's move on to the SP with a fully charged lithium-ion battery at its default brightness. Wow, we only got 3 hours and 25 minutes. That's less than the AGB at full brightness. Now this could come just to the quality of this particular aftermarket battery or simply its age. This really may not be a fair comparison. Unfortunately, I don't know, but those are the results. Nintendo's website states that one should get between 7 and 10 hours of battery life depending on the brightness setting. So it's unclear if they're referring to the AGS-001 or 101. But in either case, our results are less than Nintendo's stated lower bound of 7 hours. Again, this is difficult to judge since we really don't know the condition of my battery. Alright, the last test. Let's see how the SP does at full brightness. We were able to get 2 hours and 23 minutes, almost exactly 1 hour less than the default brightness, which is pretty interesting, and the lowest figure we got with all the tests. So here is a summary of the results, and I think it's clear that the AGB does really well. However, I have to caveat the results because just so little is known about my AGS battery. If anyone out there has tested their battery life, leave a comment below and share your results. Be sure to write down which mods you have done for your Game Boy Advance and also the specifications of the battery you used. It would be nice to be able to compare my results with all of yours. So there you have it, a battery test for both the AGB and AGS Game Boy Advance console. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Macho Nacho Productions. I release content every Thursday, so be sure to turn on notifications. And as always, we'll see you next time.